This is part 2 of the chapter 1 lecture notes. So we're now going to look at each of the body systems or organ systems. There's 11 of them, and just talk about what you need to be familiar with for chapter 1, because the chapters beginning with chapter 5, the integumentary system is covered in chapter 5. The skeletal system is covered in chapter 6. So starting from chapter 5, we will cover the organ systems of the human body in each of our chapters. And we'll cover almost all of them. We won't really have time in the summer to cover every single organ system, but we cover most of them. So the integumentary system is the skin, the hair, the nails, and also glands like the sweat glands and the oil glands called sebaceous glands. And you can see the general functions of the integumentary system are protection against the environment, helping control body temperature, providing sensations or sensory information like touch and pain and pressure and temperature. Basically hot and cold, not the exact temperature. The skeletal system consists of the bones of the skeleton. So that's going to be the axial skeleton, which is everything in the center and the axis of the body, the skull, the vertebrae, the ribs, and the sternum, which is the breastbone. Those would be components of the axial skeleton. And the appendicular skeleton are going to include the bones of the pectoral girdle, which is your collarbone, and your shoulder blade. We call those the clavicle and the scapula. And then the bones of your pelvic girdle, your pelvic bones, your arm and your leg bones, your fingers, your toes. And the functions are listed here. The skeletal system provides support, protection. For example, the skull protects the brain. Storing minerals. Bones store the mineral calcium, and also in long bones, fat is stored in the bone marrow. And the red bone marrow of the bones form the blood cells, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. So the bones do a lot more probably than you realize. The muscular system is really just focusing on skeletal muscle. It's not focusing on cardiac muscle of the heart or the smooth muscle of like the blood vessels and the digestive tract, but just the skeletal muscles that move the body. The skeletal muscles are attached to the bones, and they provide movement and also protection. For example, your abdominal muscles protect the organs that are inside of you in your abdominal region. And muscles also produce heat. So the muscles and the tendons, all of those would be the muscular system. The nervous system is composed of the brain, the spinal cord, and then all of the nerves that extend out from the brain and spinal cord. We call those the cranial nerves and the spinal nerves. So that's the nervous system. The endocrine system, in addition to the nervous system, is a control system. It helps to control the other body systems, where the nervous system does it through neurotransmitters and electrical impulses. The endocrine system does it through hormones that travel through the blood. The responses of the endocrine system are long-term changes. They tend to take a longer time to act, but they last longer as well than the nervous system. I'm going to name these organs because a lot of times, or some of these are glands, but a lot of times the endocrine system is not as familiar to everyone. So the pineal gland is in the brain. It produces melatonin. You've probably heard of that. You can buy it over the counter to help you sleep. The pituitary gland produces a lot of hormones that control other glands and organs. The thyroid gland controls your metabolism and also helps with calcium levels in your blood. The pancreas produces insulin, helps regulate your blood sugar, and it also produces digestive enzymes that help digest your food. Your reproductive glands, in males it would be the testes, and in females it would be the ovaries. These are also kind of overlapping. They're found in the reproductive systems, but also they're considered part of the endocrine system because they produce hormones. And then we have the parathyroid glands, which are attached to the thyroid gland, and they help to regulate blood calcium levels. The thymus, which is also part of the lymphatic system, as well as the endocrine system. The adrenal glands produce epinephrine, and they produce cortisol, the stress hormone. So, endocrine system basically produces hormones. The cardiovascular system consists of the heart and the blood vessels and the blood. And it's involved in transporting oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients, and waste, as well as hormones throughout our body. So the cardiovascular system functions in transport. The lymphatic system functions in defending our body against infection and disease, and also helping us with fluid balance, returning tissue fluid to the blood. So we have lymph nodes, which are concentrated in certain areas. There are lymph nodes concentrated in our neck region, in our armpit region, our groin region. We have lymphatic vessels. We have the spleen, the thymus, which overlaps. It's a component of the lymphatic system as well as the endocrine. But as a component of the lymphatic system, it is where white blood cells called T cells go to mature. They're called T cells because they mature in the thymus. And then we have the respiratory system, which is involved in making sure oxygen gets to all of the cells of our body. And so that's going to include the nasal cavity, the sinuses, the pharynx, which is the throat, the larynx, which is the voice box, the trachea, which is our windpipe, and then the bronchi, the bronchioles, the lungs, the diaphragm, which is a muscle that helps in inhaling. The digestive system includes the digestive tract, which begins at the mouth. Food travels through the pharynx, your throat, which is the same place that air travels through until it reaches the trachea. But food is going to go from the pharynx into the esophagus, into the stomach, small intestines, large intestine, and then the rectum and the anus. And there are accessory organs and glands of the digestive system, the salivary glands that produce saliva, the liver, the gallbladder, the pancreas. And then we have the urinary system, which is the kidneys, the ureters, the bladder, and the urethra. And the male and female reproductive systems, the glands of the male reproductive system, of course, are the testes, and then the female reproductive system is the ovaries. The mammary glands are also included in the female reproductive system. Okay, identify the organ systems of the body and list their major functions. So you can just go back through what we just went through and do that. But the 11 organ systems, so let's see, it would be integumentary system, skeletal, muscular, nervous, endocrine, lymphatic, tegumentary, skeletal, muscle, nervous, endocrine, lymphatic, that's 6. And then it's the cardiovascular, respiratory, digestive, and reproductive. That's 10. I'm missing 1. Urinary. So number 6, which organ system includes the pituitary gland and directs long-term changes in the activities of the body's other systems? And that would be the endocrine system. Pituitary gland. Okay. Okay, and so now we're going to talk a little bit about homeostasis. The 11 body systems are designed to help maintain homeostasis, which is a state of internal balance or a stable internal environment. So homeostasis is maintained by homeostatic regulation. It usually involves a receptor that senses a particular change or stimulus, such as the change in your body temperature or the change in your blood glucose or blood sugar levels. There's a control center or integration center, which typically is the brain. It can be the brain or the spinal cord. An effector, which is a cell or organ that responds to commands from the control center. And the response may oppose the stimulus or it may enhance the stimulus. If it opposes the stimulus, we call it negative feedback. So an example of homeostasis that does not occur in the human body, it occurs in our homes, uses the thermostat as the control center. Okay, so our thermostat is like our control center, and it is set at a desired room temperature. So we may have it set at, 68 degrees. That's where I like it set. But other people may want it to be 70 or higher or even lower than 68. But let's just say 68 for now, okay? Now, if the temperature goes up or down outside of the range of the 68 degrees, the thermometer is our receptor. It will read that the temperature has gone above or below 68, which is our set point. And then the thermostat is the control center. So the thermometer sends the temperature to the thermostat. The thermostat decides either to switch on the heater or the air conditioner, which both of those would be the effectors. Whatever the response is going to oppose the original stimulus or negate the original stimulus. So if the temperature is set at 68 on the thermostat and it went above to like 72, then the thermostat's going to switch on the air conditioner to lower the temperature back down. So if the temperature raises, then the response is going to oppose that or negate it. That is called negative feedback. And a lot of situations in our body, a lot of examples of homeostasis are controlled by negative feedback. This is the illustration of the example we just went through. You have the room temperature goes up above the set point. The thermometer receives that information, sends the information to the thermostat, the control center, which decides to turn on the air conditioner, which is our effector, and that restores the temperature back to the lower temperature, the lower room temperature. Negative feedback occurs when there are variations from normal, variations from the set point, and that triggers an automatic response in the body. The response corrects the situation back to the normal range. Thermoregulation is an example of that. When our body temperature is too high, we have responses that lower it. When our body temperature is too low, we have responses that raise it. So the control center in the brain is the hypothalamus that regulates body temperature. The effectors are going to be the sweat glands, smooth muscle in the blood vessels. The activity of the sweat glands are going to increase, and as you sweat and the sweat evaporates, the body will cool. The blood vessels, the smooth muscle in our blood vessels that supply our skin are going to relax, and the blood vessels are going to dilate. They're going to get larger, and that's going to increase blood flow to the body surface, and that will draw heat to the body surface, and it will be radiated away from the body surface. So these are responses that are going to end up lowering the body temperature back to normal. What would happen if the body temperature is low is that the hypothalamus would trigger the sweat glands to decrease their activity. The blood vessels are going to constrict, and that's going to hold in the heat in the blood vessels, so we don't lose heat to the environment. Our skeletal muscles will contract. That will cause us to shiver, and it's going to cause our body temperature to raise back to the normal range. This is an illustration of how body temperature is regulated in the body, how body temperature is regulated in